Okay, John McAfee, welcome to the Crypto Bar. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. We've got so much to talk about. I mean, where do you even start? How about we start with you're running for president. So how did that come about and why are you doing it?
Well, this is my second time running. I ran in 2016 on the Libertarian Party. Came in runner-up for the nomination. I didn't want to be president at all back then. I just wanted the national stage to talk about things that I thought were important. I'm doing the same thing this year. I don't want the presidency. I'd be the worst president in the world. Number one, presidents have no power. I don't think that it matters who sits in the Oval Office. I mean, once you sit there, you have 1,000 strings attached to you. You become a puppet to the CIA, the military-industrial complex, those in power in Congress, your backers in your party. It just doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
It's like a system. The system is like a car with a frozen steering wheel. It just is going to go where it's going. Doesn't matter.
So,
go ahead.
So, what would you hope to change? Like, what would the first 100 days of a McAfee presidency look like?
Well, there would never be a McAfee presidency.
No, but we want one.
No one in their right mind could believe that was possible. I mean, not in the physical laws of this universe, as I see it.
Are you eligible?
Pardon?
Are you eligible to be president?
Of course I am. Absolutely.
Because you were born in the UK, right?
Right, but I was born. My mother was a British citizen, and my father an American soldier during World War II. And they met. I was born on a U.S. Army base during World War II, which makes me, and my father being an American soldier, makes me a U.S. citizen. And I have a U.S. passport. No, I'm definitely eligible, but it doesn't matter. Please God, I don't want to be president. I can't be president, but I promise you, I will disrupt this system of campaigning. Because here's one of our problems, people. We who do we vote into office? Always. I mean, for the past 100 years, people who are willing to pay more to get a job than the job pays. Keep in mind, government is supposed to be a servant. We elect people and say, you willing to do this? Who wants to do this job for $250,000 a year? It's president. It's hard. The hours are long. Do you want it or not? Okay, and they goes, yeah, okay, I'll run for it, or yeah, I'll run for it. No. We elect people who pay $100 million to get a job paying $250,000 a year. Now, my math sees a problem with that, and maybe there's a new math that I do not understand, in which 2 + 2 no longer equals 4, but is some variable depending upon your mood. I don't fucking know, but I do know in my math there's something wrong with this formula, and yet we vote for them. We need to be voting for people that we have to drag kicking and screaming into office, shaming them, knowing that they will be the best. Like, I mean, our first example, the first prime example, George Washington. He did not want to be president. Good God, he was an old man, had been the general of the Continental Army. Listen, the presidency of the U.S. was such a step down for him.
Yeah.
Plus, he just wanted to retire. I mean, listen, people, I have done my duty for this country, and he had. I mean, think about it. Sacrifice life and limb. I mean, imagine the hardships of freeing America from imperial control. And he wanted to fish. I mean, Jesus God, man, fishing on the Potomac, I can imagine back then what it was, because even now it's spectacular. He just wanted to fish. But they would not let him because, in all seriousness, people, who else? Who else was there? I mean, we had Thomas Jefferson, a brilliant mind, brilliant, a lover of life, like Benjamin Franklin. Many lovers, many adventures, but good God, an organizer and a leader of people. Oh, hell no. He wouldn't have even shown up on the job more than twice a week. So it couldn't be him. Benjamin Franklin, I mean, he was party central. That's all he was. Life was a party. No, there was nobody but George Washington. Stable, experienced, honest, trustworthy, old. It was his only problem. And they forced him into it. We need more of the same today. Do you not see how we have strayed from the path of democracy to the path of money and power? And that is where we went wrong. And we've got to get back on path.
So that sort of then begs the question: what can we do to change that? So we see that in the UK, how you're influenced to make decisions, and as you say, people are taking jobs that don't add up in salary and benefits. But how do you change that status quo?
But by changing the consciousness of the people. That's all you need, is to wake people up to the truth of their reality, because most people are blinded to it. I mean, if you're in a crowded movie theater and the film is so compelling that all other sensation is lost other than what's coming through your eyes and ears, and then somebody notices a fire in the back of the auditorium, what do? You sit down and go, we need a plan. Let's see, I need to wake somebody up, and we need to together work out what to do here. And then, no, hell no, you shot fire. Is that not sufficient?
Yep.
Everybody stops losing interest in the film and says, oh my God, we're all about to die. What do? We find the exits, and they are designed for a crowd of people in panic trying to get out. That's all we need to do, is wake people up. And you two, what you can do, this is your job, your responsibility, and your legacy. Are you going to waste it on trivialities like the mundane day-to-day fluctuations of markets? Or are you going to look at your own futures and realize that the listeners you have, whether they be 1 or 2 or 20 or 20,000, your responsibility is to give whatever part of you that is awake to them.
We were talking about this just earlier today, because I don't know if you know, but we just had our election last night in the UK, and Boris Johnson won again by an absolute landslide. Now,
Boris Johnson won.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you something.
Absolute landslide.
First of all, how do you get into a prime ministerial election? This is of interest to me, and I'll tell you why in a moment. How do I get in? Let's say I'm Joe Blow, and I'm homeless, and I live on the street corner at Hyde Park at the end of Oxford Street, and I decide, this is a fucked up country, and I can fix it. So I'm going to run for prime minister, which should be his right. Is that possible?
You'd struggle.
You would. You'd struggle. You wouldn't get the exposure. Like, we couldn't even get in the big debates that were televised. We couldn't even get the third largest party on the televised debates, because it was just a monopoly between the top two, if one of them decided to turn up. So you're out of the discussion.
The reason I'm asking this is that I am a British citizen as well, with, I hope, all the rights of any other British citizen. In spite of my character and history and what the government may think of me, do I not have the same rights as the two of you sitting there?
Absolutely. So, but the process would be that you would register your intent to run, but it would have to be where you lived. So it would be for I don't know, a county, or I think they're called wards. So then you'd be voted by the people who live in that small area. And if you win, you get one seat in the House of Parliament to represent. Now, you could do that as an
So
independent.
it sounds like this is a multi-year process,
Oh,
or
absolutely.
multi-decade
Yeah.
process,
And,
right?
and yeah,
You've got to
absolutely.
start down at the bottom. There's probably about 6, 7 layers. Who knows? At
Yep.
least 3.
Yep. You'd have to
And
join a party, a political party, and then you'd have to win your seat.
yes,
You'd have to.
because I am going to run
Are you?
for some party seat in England. I don't know which one. I know very little about your politics, but I have the right to do so, and I'm going to listen. I'm 74. Time I exercise my fucking rights,
Do it.
and then one of them is whatever rights I have as a British citizen to seek political office, and whatever that highest thing may be. If it's like, council head, then damn it, that's where I'll start. And I'm going to do that starting in 2020, January. I've been talking to various people. Why? Because I can. And
Amazing.
because there is no difference, people, between the nightmare of the average American citizen with surveillance everywhere and a government that was originally intended to serve now has turned us into servants. I think we're the same. We have the same problem, people.
Oh,
And
completely.
therefore, I would like to talk to the British people like I am able to talk to the American people. That's easy. And if I'm running for office in England, maybe I'll get 3 or 4 additional people who might listen to me. And 3 or 4 isn't enough for me to take the effort.
But see, the problem, and I guess it's the same problem in America, is the top 3 or 4, 5 maybe newspapers here are all owned by rich billionaires, right? And then so the working classes and people like me will read news from them, basically telling us how they want us to vote. And a lot of people don't think critically. They don't look at, okay, I'm being told to vote this way, but why? Like, what is their interest? And they don't realize. They just think,
Listen, I don't want this because I actually want to win. No, I just want to run.
Yeah, but how can you change anybody's opinion if you're
You
fighting
change
against?
through the running, because in the running you get to have your say. Do you understand? And if what you have to say is true enough and strikes a chord in the hearts of enough people, then that's how it's changed. Not by shifting one fucking incompetent leader for another that's incompetent in some other way, but equally as inefficient. No, that's not how you change. You
But to
change
try,
by waking people up to the truth of their environment.
yeah, but to get your voice heard, you're already fighting against billionaires that have control of the media. Like, how can you stand up? Like, I'm sure there's loads of people that would wanting to stand.
Are we talking about the average person or me? Because I'm the one that's going to be running.
Well, that's a good
true.
point.
Yeah, I do not need the British press. Trust me.
That's a good point.
I've got, with my Facebook, Twitter, and everything else, almost 1.5 million people who follow me, and I had the ear of the world press, whether some local district likes it or not. So even running for whatever council lowest office is, secretary to something, even running for that, I will get international press. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is all that matters. And in that international press, I get to say something that maybe a few people will hear.
So I know we met briefly in Malta about a year ago when you were talking about doing the running for president. And one of the messages that you wanted to get across was around cryptocurrency and adoption. Is that still high on the agenda?
It's the highest on the agenda as far as I'm concerned. And then the only reason that I'm running again for president is because it will give me an opportunity to explain to the people what we have in the blockchain and cryptocurrency and how we have misused it beyond any sensibilities or logic. We've turned what is a golden key that could unlock us from the servitude of financial slavery to whatever entity owns the currency that we use, to free us from that. And instead have used this golden key to scratch their backs by investing in cryptocurrency to make a fortune. And some did and some did not. And who gives a shit, because money itself does not free you if the money is not owned by you. It's simply in your custody, but owned by the Fed or someone else that controls its supply, its movement, monitors everything. No, it could free us from that, and we are trying to make a quick buck. Oh, people, slap yourselves in the faces. Look in the mirror and see yourself as a free person rather than the enslaved thing you are now, whether you believe you are or not. I mean, if you wake up on a Monday morning to go to work and you don't go, it's Monday, thank God. I can get to work. I've loved being with my family, but God, I love my job and can't wait to get back. If that's not your attitude, then you are a slave. And as a slave, it would seem in your interest to leave the cage of your slavery, and cryptocurrency is the only key I have seen in my 74 years on this earth that came from the people and not from the bowels of some government program, but no, from the people. Open source that we have built on and created a flowering, blossoming, beautiful sea of possibilities. Stop this insanity. Wake up to the truth of your life, and let's use the cryptocurrency that we as people created for its intended purpose. Buy shit with it, sell shit for it, goods, services, be creative, escape that fiat which controls your every move and existence, without which you cannot buy cars, send your kids to school, pay bills, get medical help. Abandon that slavery, people. And I'm sorry I went off on this rant. You should ask me a less intense question.
No, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it, John, is that you clearly kind of live what you preach. There's no bullshit about it. It's a massive risk that you take, and you're doing it. But so let me ask you this then: do you feel free yourself? Bearing in mind you can't tell us where you are, you can't set foot back in America. Do you feel free?
Do I ever? And so does Janice, and most of the people closely around us, even though those people, we cannot even tell where we are because there is no safe way of doing so. And yes, I've never been freer. I'm 70. Well, come on, okay. My knees. All right, listen. Those of you who have contempt for your great grandparents who are hobbling around with canes, well, listen. Old age is not for you fucking wimps. It is shit. All right, I am telling you now. My knees are shot. Okay, so I do miss the freedom of running. I mean, if if someone said, listen, if you could give everything up, everything, oh, except Janice, all right? No offense, buddy. Just for the ability to run. I go, well, fuck me. Yes. But unfortunately, this is not in the reality of today's world a possibility. So, but barring that loss of freedom, which is really not a loss of freedom, but merely a restriction such as I can't fly to the moon. Now, is that a loss of freedom or simply an acceptance of reality? Right? So my legs and inability to run is not a loss of freedom. I'm still free. I'm accepting the reality that, listen, running is just not a possibility. Might as well be wanting to fly to the moon. So, yes, I'm free, because freedom is not a physical environment. It's not a jail, for fuck's sake. Freedom is the ability to be yourself without fear of repercussions.
So what do you say to the
being
people?
Yourself. I'm sorry?
What do you say to the people? And believe me when I say this, I'm just playing devil's advocate now because I'm very much on your side of the fence on this. We're fully blockchain people. We are all about crypto adoption. But to take the opposite position, what do you say to people that actually feel free and feel safe in the security of the system now that, you know, they get up, they go to their job, they don't mind their job, they come home, they've got a comfortable house, they watch telly, they go to bed, and they start and they do the same thing the next day. They're a prisoner of the routine, but they feel safe. What do you say to those guys? Why should they disrupt everything that they have for an ideal?
Listen, I'm not asking anybody to disrupt anything. If you, in fact, are happy in a life which might be the only one you ever have, that you structure into a daily habit where every day you know you're going to be safe and you know exactly what's going to happen. Going to get out of bed, going to go downstairs. My wife is going to be smiling. The tea is going to be on the table. The kippers are in the skillet. I'll get dressed, and as I leave, I will say goodbye. And just at that moment, the bus driver will come by. His name is Joe, a very jolly fellow. And Joe will, no, that's fine. If you want to live the same day over and over and over in a life that you are not sure can be repeated, or get another. If that's what you want, then please God, with my blessing and misunderstandings, but blessings, please do so. But if you wake up and realize that is your life, and you see the truth of it, and you go, I've already lived this day 1,000 times. Maybe there's another day for me. And that day is the first day of the rest of your life.
It's inspiring. I mean, that's the difficulty we face, isn't it? It's trying to get people out of that comfort zone. Do you think that is a stumbling block to adoption of Bitcoin? Do you think it's like a psychological, ideological thing, or the technology is not there?
Well, the stumbling blocks are almost infinite, but so what? I mean, the stumbling blocks to the mass adoption of electronic computing technology had stumbling blocks. There always will be. We just have to recognize those that are self-inflicted.
Yeah.
And those that we create, which are the vast majority in all cases of stumbling blocks. We've created one by our own greed. We have turned crypto into a gleaming virtual Las Vegas. Completely. Where you can go into Las Vegas and the lights are bright and shiny, and there's no government control, and there's chaos, and no one knows what the law really is. But there's a lot of fun here. That's what it's become. So who are we going to attract? Obviously, the same crowd that originally inhabited Las Vegas. Gangsters, tricksters, scammers, soldiers of fortune, those waiting for the next gold rush. So we are boys and girls, truly and really in the wild, wild west of the 21st century. And in this wild, wild west, we must form some kind of structure for relating to one another, which actually works. As the towns in the old West, were separated by hundreds of miles, and one had laws against spitting on the sidewalk, and the next had laws, against walking into a bar with your hat on. And it's like madness. That's where we are. And then along came railroads, the telegraph, where you could, you know, actually send a message from Tucson, Arizona to San Francisco, California in a matter of seconds. And then that changed everything. It allowed for commerce. It allowed for movement with the trains. People would move. I'm tired of Death Valley. I'd like to see Southern California, whatever. And as they moved, they mingled. And as they mingled, the culture that came with them mingled and blended. And as all things do that are contradictory, one or the other floats to the top. And in civilization, it tends to be up for grabs. The Old West turned out okay. Are we going to turn out okay in the crypto world?
So that was going to be my next question. Where do you think this is going?
It depends on us, as I said. Because here's what's coming. And I promise you, it's coming. And if you think about it, you know in your heart it's coming. Governments already fearful of crypto are number one, going to start their own cryptocurrencies. China is already doing
Already there, yeah.
And I promise you, the US and every country or region in the world will do the same. Step one. Step two, outlaw privacy coins. Why? They're outside the touch of any sort of eavesdropping or surveillance or digging into can't be done. So that those citizens using privacy coins are now, in effect, outside of the system. And already today, using Monero, you can buy everything you need for which to live. Clothes, houses, cars, you name it. And if you're living in a pure crypto culture, where every piece of work that you do, and it's happening now for independent contractors, artists, you name it, but it'll be happening for everybody. In that culture, you're getting paid in crypto, in Monero, and you're paying out in Monero, and you just don't use dollars or euros. This is happening today. It's small, tiny groups scattered across the globe, but from these pioneers, I promise you people, a new world will emerge, provided we can survive the backlash of the entire world. I am on the forefront, and look at me. I can't even tell you where I am or where I will be tomorrow. I can't own a cell phone anymore. Not possible if I did. within a few weeks, I would be discovered. It's a way that our surveillance, our world surveillance works. I have to live a life of a fugitive because I am carrying with me a torch of freedom.
So if you had
do something, people, for yourselves.
Okay, so that's quite interesting. One of the things that I'd written down that I wanted to talk to you about was a.
I'm sorry.
No,
I just love your comment. That's quite interesting.
No, it is quite interesting.
Where I actually had to dig a little bit deep.
We're British.
Hang on. Let's be honest. In truth, while I was speaking, you were actually listening to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, weren't you? And you didn't hear a word I said.
No, I completely did. And I think, sorry, it was around picking up the security and the surveillance side. So one of the things I see, people walking around with a post-it over their camera on their computer.
I'm sorry, we had a crisis here.
Yeah.
Red or white doesn't matter, baby. I ran out of wine. Anyway,
that is a crisis.
I apologize. We have priorities in life.
Absolutely.
I mean, I really like you guys, but when I reached for my glass that was empty, a new set of priorities came.
I'm running on empty myself here. Look.
Oh, fair enough then.
So yeah, sorry. What would your advice be around security and surveillance? I mean, at the minute, you're obviously world class at that, mainly because of your background, but also you're staying away from being found. And as I say, you see people wandering around with a post-it over the camera on a laptop, and maybe having this idea that I'm going to delete my cookies or whatever else. But as an average general person, what can they do to stop that kind of surveillance?
Well, there is no way to stop the surveillance directly by fighting the surveillance. And believe me, people, there is surveillance. It doesn't matter if you put a piece of tape over the camera; it's still going to listen to you. You've got a smartphone. It's gonna tell somebody where you are at every moment of the day and who you're with. I mean, reading your emails, your DMs, your social media posts. You have no privacy anymore. So it's not a question of what you do. It's a question of you can't do anything. We have to go a different route. We cannot fight privacy through our loss of privacy through means of technology because we're just fighting technology with technology.
Okay.
We have to go above this and stop the need for governments to monitor its citizens. Our governments should be working for us. Instead, we seem to be working for them. They should be our servants. We seem to be theirs. Government should belong to the people. And yet, as I see it, people belong to the government. I mean, I'm not even allowed to smoke weed in most states in America because the government says, I own your body. I'm telling you what you can't put into it. No more fucking argument.
Yeah.
But is this because some people aren't capable of looking after themselves, and there should be somebody to kind of help those people? Like, not everyone's as smart as you, John. Not everyone is as careful and healthy as other people. Do we have a responsibility as a society to those people? Is it enough to say, yeah, do what you want?
That's probably the deepest question I've been asked in the past few months.
Oh, that's cool.
How can you have a responsibility for another human being when you have not yet picked up your responsibility to yourself? And among those, the greatest of those responsibilities to yourself is the responsibility to see the world as it is and not as you hope it is or want it to be, or to see in a manner in which you can only be comfortable. That responsibility is the one you must pick up, because once you have picked up your responsibility, you realize that you cannot pick up anyone else's. All you can do is point them to their own reality and hope they pick it up themselves. But there's no help to be given. That's the thing. We all want to help others. Why? Because that desire to help is what keeps us from seeing the truth of ourselves. We're looking out to help others.
Is it though, or is it just human nature? Like,
is it what?
Isn't it just human nature that you don't exist just purely for yourself, but to try and help others and better others? Isn't that just a basic part of being a good human?
Well, you guys are serious in terms of your question.
Only
Let me
because
pause for that one. Let me answer that one, because that's more clear. Yes, and absolutely not all at the same time. Anything that happens suddenly without anticipation is always answered with nothing but empathy, compassion, and we are all one. I'll give you an example. You're walking along the side of a river, and you're dressed up in black tie because you're going to your own fucking wedding. While you're by the river, I don't know. It's just play. And there's a child drowning by the bank. Now, every fucking human being in the world, without thought about this is a tux, either jumps in without thought, grabs the child, puts the child out of danger, climbs out, and then maybe going, God damn, kid, look what you did. Nevertheless, all right, without thought. So every human action without thought, meaning without the recognition that there is I with me and the rest of the world. When that thought comes, when that understanding of the I comes back into consciousness, because there's no understanding of I jumping in the water. You just jump in the water. You don't think of I jumping. Save kid. That's the situation. There's no me. There's no kid. This is what has to happen. Let's get it over with. But when the concept of me in relation to an action comes in, then I promise you, my friend, there is no such thing as empathy or compassion in life. Because every single person, if you ask them truly, meaning ask yourself this truly, my friends, what is the most important thing on your list of importances? If it is not yourself, then you're lying to yourself.
It's really tricky, isn't it? I mean, I 100% agree with you. I absolutely do. I think maybe on some level, there's, even though yourself is the most important thing to you, bar none, part of yourself maybe wouldn't be satisfied if you weren't doing something and giving something up for others. I think that there's kind of something inside everybody that wants to be positive and bring something to society rather than just take. And that ultimately is a selfish need, because you're doing it for yourself because you are number one and it makes you happy.
Yeah,
but
that's right. If that makes you happy, you're still doing it for you, dude. Yeah. And if it doesn't make you happy, you're not going to do it. I mean, so it's not a universal trait. The universal trait is you do whatever you damn well please for you. That's the universal trait.
This got deep as shit, didn't it?
So I'm going to go with the very less serious question.
Let's go straight to the Dickening.
I think we want to go to.
Are there any no serious questions? Seriously.
We want to go to the Dickening. We want to know, are you worried? Bitcoin price, end of the year?
No, certainly not. Listen, people. If there's a single soul out there that believes anybody, having said they're going to eat their dick, for whatever reason, is actually going to, on TV, I think it was,
I think that was, yeah.
eat their dick, then you need psychiatric help. I mean, big time.
There's websites about this, John. People are expecting.
So can we at least get real? And if so, then it's simply a goddamn prediction. And did it not onboard tens of thousands of users? Yes, it did. Because it just gained press outside of the crypto community.
Yeah. Which
and
is
do we not need press outside of the crypto community in order to onboard members? Yes, we do. And I will do whatever's necessary to do that, except eat my dick. Because if you think anybody will, that motherfucker needs to be put away immediately.
So I've got one
more question, my friend.
Go for it. Do you want to? Oh, no, actually, okay. So a quick question about a project that I was really keen on, and you were CEO once, and I was really excited when you came on board. If you're happy to talk about it, LuxCore, what happened there? Are you still involved? What did you think of the project?
Listen, I took a position at LuxCore. You take a chance with that.
Yeah.
For a limited time, to advise or actually run LuxCore. Why? I didn't have any real experience in running altcoin companies. I mean, I've run legitimate big ass companies before, MGT, McAfee Inc. So anyway, and it simply did not pan out to my expectations. We parted company, and that was that.
Yeah, that's a fair enough answer.
All right, thank you so much for having me on. I've appreciated this.
No,
thanks a lot.
Thank you.